All right, so Game of Thrones season 4, episode 1. It's called Two Swords. And you know what? It was a good show. It was a good show, and it did quite a bit with touching on where just about every major character was, as opposed to just focusing on a few. It pretty much touched on every major character. We had some Lannister action, we had some Daenerys action, we had some Arya and the Hound action. So we pretty much even we had some action from Snow, from Jon Snow and his crew. So it pretty much it touched. We had action with Ygritte, what's going on with her and Tormund and their group. So it pretty much touched on just about every major character and every major subplot that's going on, which was cool. I like that. I like that because it kind of gave us an idea of what's going on at this moment with each major character and their own subplots, their own stories that are going on right now. So I'll give it that. And it had you got the same old beautiful scenery that we're used to getting on Game of Thrones. Beautiful, just gorgeous colors all over this. Just gorgeous colors and costumes and just Game of Thrones, man. It's almost like it didn't have a break. It's almost like this was the next episode from last week. It's almost like we haven't been waiting for like the last year for it to come back. So really impressive, really impressive. And another thing, it was somewhat muted. It wasn't action packed or anything like that. But Game of Thrones is not really all about action. So it was really subdued, but at the same time, I liked that because it kind of gave us some time to get back into the characters, get back into their stories. And that was great. Instead of giving us all this too much at once, it just kind of broke us in slowly so that we could kind of see where everybody was and kind of almost like it was reintroducing us to the characters again and making us familiar with them. So I like that. Now on with the actual episode. There are obviously going to be some spoilers in here, so if you don't want any spoilers, you might want to quit watching right now. Watch it and come back. But so it starts off with Jaime and with his dad Tywin. Actually, initially starts off with a sword being melted and being melded into a brand new sword. We later find out that Tywin Lannister is essentially melding one of the Stark ancestral swords and melding it to another sword. And I guess that's why the episode is called Two Swords, because he melds them together and he gives this sword as a gift to his son, Jaime. All right. Now, the last time we saw Jaime last season, he had just made it to King's Landing. And, so a broken man, been through hell. We hated him, but we grew to like him, most of us, as last season went on. He turned out not to be that bad after all. So we see him again, and he looks good. He looks good. He had his hair cut, and he looked fresh. Obviously, he's missing an arm. And so Tywin tells them, hey, this sword is for you. And Jaime's like, whoa, I love this sword, And Tywin tells him, hey, I want you to go back to Castle Rock to take over, to take over in my stead because he's the king's arm. And Jaime's like, I'm not going. I'm not going. And this actually amazed me because we're so used to Tywin Lannister getting his way and having his way. All I think about is the episode last season where he's just chastising both of his other kids, Cersei and Tyrion, and chastising them, and they're just sitting there taking it, just at the table, just taking it, and they don't say anything against them. But Jaime actually stood up to his dad here and said, no, Dad, I'm not. going back to Castle Rock. I'm staying here. I'm part of the king's guard. I'm staying here. So Tywin's just kind of like, whatever. Kind of said like, well, you don't have a family then, And Jaime's like, ugh, but can I still have the sword? I was cracking up at that part. You know, his father pretty much disowned him at that point, and he's like, but Dad, can I have the sword still? He really loved that sword. So, so that's a King's Landing that happens there. Unfortunately, Sansa is still obviously she just found out that her family has been slaughtered. Her mom, her brother, Rob, and she's still distraught. And Tyrion is trying to comfort her, and she's just not having it. She's not having it, and she just wants to be alone, and she heads off to be on her own. And you feel for her because at this point you're feeling like, man, this girl is all on her own, and she feels like pretty much her entire family is gone. She has no idea where Arya is. As far as she's concerned, Arya is dead. She knows for a fact her mom's dead, and Rob's dead, her brother. Her dad, for sure, she saw him get his head chopped off. So as far as she's concerned, she's all alone. So she's really distraught. Meanwhile, Tyrion is trying his best to comfort her and make her feel good, but there's only so much he can do. She's not having it. She's not having it. Meanwhile, Tyrion is going through his own problems. He is supposed to be this. He was supposed to greet. he was supposed to greet basically an entourage, Prince Doran Martell and his entourage. He was supposed to greet them because they're coming for the wedding. And as it turned out, the prince didn't show up. He sent his brother instead, Prince Oberyn. And Oberyn has no respect, not just for Tyrion, but he has no respect for the Lannisters at all. And you can sense his disdain for Tyrion. And you see this even further down the line a little bit when he tells Tyrion that the only reason why he came in his brother's stead was to exact revenge on Tyrion's father, because Tyrion's father was responsible for the death of his sister. His sister, Elia, was married to Rhaegar Targaryen. And, when Tywin came in with his forces and everything and took over, Elia, his sister, was killed, and his niece, his nephew were killed. So he has got the fire of revenge in his blood. He wants blood. And he tells this to Tyrion in Tyrion's face. He tells Tyrion this: I am here essentially to fuck up your freaking father for what he did to my family. Of course, he didn't use the exact same words, but you get my drift. And Tyrion's just like, oh shit. Oh man. But he doesn't say much. So now Tyrion's dealing with this crap. Oberyn has no respect for him. Oberyn just told him, I'm here for revenge. Meanwhile, Sansa, his wife, is not giving him the time of day. He can't comfort his wife. She doesn't want to be anywhere near him because as far as she's concerned, his dad had her family killed. So he's dealing with that. And then on top of that, he's dealing with his little girl on the side. And his little girl on the side is being a pain in the ass. Oh my God. She was really ticking me off, all right? So Tyrion's dealing with all this crap, and she's being this little complaining, whining. Oh man, she was getting on my nerves. And you felt bad for Tyrion because, he's a good guy and he's dealing with all this crap. And she's just giving him grief. Why don't you want to be with me? Why don't you want to sleep with me? Why don't you want to do this? Why don't you want to do that? And Tyrion's like, listen, I got a lot going on right now. So he's dealing with that, with those problems. So that's King's Landing pretty much. Pretty much King's Landing. We have a few more scenes with We have a few more scenes. We have a few more scenes with the Lady Olenna. We have her, and we have her granddaughter Marjorie. They kind of looking over necklaces and stuff like that, and they're talking, and nothing really big going on there. They're just kind of preparing for the wedding and all that. So that's pretty much King's Landing, and another scene where Joffrey, we get to see Joffrey again, and he is as much as an asshole as he's always been. He he has this air about him of just arrogance, and he is so cocky. All right, so he's in the room, and he's with Jaime, and they're all talking about just preparing for the wedding and everything, and and Jaime he's being God. He's being basically insulted by Joffrey, because Joffrey's essentially telling him, how the hell are you going to protect me when you have, oh, by the way, Jaime got fitted with one of those iron hands. So in this scene, he's wearing that iron arm or hand and talking to Jaime, and Jaime's basically like stomping on him, like while he's down. He's basically like, listen, how can you be commander of my guard or be my guard when you don't even have two hands? You just have one hand. All right? So he's insulting the hell out of Jaime, all right? No respect. He has no respect for Jaime whatsoever. He's Joffrey. That's what you expect from Joffrey. He hates everyone. All right? So that's what happens there, pretty much. Not too much to report there. So we leave King's Landing and we go to a few places. We can touch on Daenerys. Daenerys is there, and she's as queenly and divine as ever. And basically, what she's doing now is she's on the road, and she's on the road with obviously her army, her new army. And they're essentially headed towards a place called Meereen. It's another one of those slave cities, like the one we saw last season. So it's a slave city, and she's headed there with her army. And along the way, there's this. It's a child, and the child has been nailed to a post. All right. And it's a really sad scene, and it's really sad. It's really sad. And one of our guards offers to have some men go ahead so they can take off every child that's lined up on that road headed towards the slave city. And Daenerys is like, hell no. Hell no. She says, basically, I want to see every child. So don't take them down. And she's got this like look in her face like, I'm going to fuck some shit up when I get to this town. I'm going to fuck some shit up when I get to this town. How dare they kill this child? So she's got that look of anger in her face. She's going to do some shit. When she gets that face, she's going to tear some shit up like she did last season. Uh-huh. And before all this happened, actually, I think this is important to mention. There's the opening shot shows her with her and her dragons, and her dragons are like huge now. All right, just huge. All right, and I think this is one of the things that the good things that the show does is the special effects in this show are fantastic. It's like on the level of a feature film. All right. And you have this beautiful shot, wide shot of two of the dragons flying above head, a little bit in the distance, and Daenerys is with another dragon right there on a rock. And these dragons have grown. They're huge. Again, the scope of the show is fantastic. You get this beautiful shot, but you see in this scene just how vicious these dragons are becoming. They are becoming vicious, all right? And two of them were fighting over a piece of meat. And then the third one got into it and turned on Daenerys and kind of got mad at her because she was trying to break them up. So they're getting pretty vicious. They're dragons. It's in their nature. So felt that was important to mention that, just how big the dragons have grown. So we move on from Daenerys and we go to Ygritte. Ygritte and Tormund are still like on a mission, right? But they're kind of stuck. They're kind of waiting around. They're not really moving. And it was quite easy for a group of they had some people come down to essentially help them. That's how badly they've screwed up. They have their king send part of another tribe. You know how he's got all the tribes united now to go after the North. So they're there and they have a cannibal. They're like a group of cannibals. It's a cannibal tribe, essentially. The Fens, basically. And Styr is the leader. Styr. He's like big, bald, scarred face, and he's the leader of the cannibals. And they find him pretty easily. And so they kind of get together over there, and fantastic shot of a hand that they start cooking while there. So they're definitely cannibals. But the Fans have basically joined with Ygritte and Tormund as a fighting unit, and I think they're going to move forward from there. So we have them. Like I said, the cool thing about this episode is it really touched on just about everybody, where all the main characters were, what they were doing at that moment, and where they were headed. All right, so I really liked that about it. It really touched on everyone. So that's what's going on with Ygritte. And then we get the Hound. All right, we get the Hound. And the Hound is with Arya, of course. Remember last season, he basically got her away from the slaughter that happened. Basically saved her life. And so she's on the horse with him, and Arya's like all antsy, and she's like, I want to get off this horse. I want my own pony. And Hound is like, hell no. You're not getting a pony. You're going to run off if I put you on a pony. And Arya's like, where the hell am I going to go? I've lost my whole family. But the Hound is like, no, you haven't. You have an aunt, Lysa, in Vale. And he's going to try to sell Arya to Lysa or Lisa in Vale so that he can get a ransom for her. So that's why he's trudging her along. So they go on, they're heading out, they're on the horse going, and they happen to run into this group, into a shed, one of those shacks, whatever. And they run into a group of soldiers, Lannister soldiers. And Arya notices that one of those soldiers, Polliver, he has her sword, all right? Her sword named Needle, okay? So she's like, he's got my freaking sword! And he's the one that killed a guy she knew as well. So, the Hound is like, well, I can't take 5 men. I'm pretty hungry. But Arya's not listening. You know how Arya is. She's all got to have her way. So when the Hound is not looking, Arya takes off, heads for the shack. Before you know it, all the soldiers see her, or one of them does, lets them in. And they go have a seat and everything. And then one of the soldiers, Polliver, basically notices the Hound, and he recognizes the Hound, and he comes over and says, hey, Hound, blah, 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 what's up, blah, 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 talking and all excited to be talking to the Hound. And meanwhile, the Hound is just kind of like, yeah, I'm hungry. I want chicken. And the guy's like, well, yeah, you could give us Arya, and you can trade us Arya, and I can see what I can do for you. And the Hound is like, yeah, I want 2 chickens now. And the guy's like, you want 2 chickens now? It's a pretty funny scene, actually. you can notice, you do notice that the Hound and Arya have formed a weird kind of relationship. She's not really trying to kill him now. I think she realizes that she's better off with him. She's safer with him, and you can see this. You can see that they've formed a weird kind of bond together. It's kind of strange, but you can see that. And the Hound isn't having any of it. He's not going to give her up. So before you know it, boom, you know Game of Thrones. Swords come out. It's on, all right? The Hound is taking on all these guys. I mean, he is fucking them up, all right? He is just... he's just tearing stuff up. You know how the Hound is. And, there were some parts he was getting his ass kicked, and then he turned it around, and so it was really a thrilling fight. There were moments, honestly, I thought that the Hound would get subdued, but somehow he'll get through it. Meanwhile, Arya's just kind of standing there. And I was kind of surprised because I was looking at her, I was like, this is not like Arya. She's just kind of sitting back there and kind of looking scared and shit. And I'm like, wow, this is not like Arya. And before you know it, she sees an opportunity, gets into the fight, busts one guy's head up with a with a pot or something, and grabs his sword, stabs him, goes after another guy, mows him down, cuts him down, cuts his legs first, or slashes at his legs. He goes down. She grabs that. That's Polliver she got, right? She got him. She slashed his legs. He goes down. She grabs Needle, her special sword, and basically she puts it right through there. Arya does not mess around, all right? She does not mess around. So basically the episode ends with with them both having gotten what they wanted. Hound wanted chicken, so he's riding along, We see him and he's eating his chicken. He's happy, eating his chicken. And then right behind him is Arya, and she's happy too. She's smiling. She just killed 2 guys. She doesn't give a shit. She's just riding her bike. She's happy. But guess what? She's got her pony now. And her needle, her sword. So that's how the episode actually ends. And we get a wide shot of all of the freaking destruction that's happened due to the war. There's fire, and there are buildings in flames, and it's been a brutal war. So in general, great episode. Like I said, it wasn't fast paced or nothing, but we know Game of Thrones is typically not about that. Maybe Blackwater and a couple others, but it's typically relatively slow paced. But what I liked about this episode is it really touched on just about everybody. I didn't feel like much was left out. I mean, we didn't really see Stannis. We didn't see Stannis and his crew, but the main people we got to see, and we didn't see. Yeah, there were a few other people we didn't see, but really the main characters, the main plot lines, the people we care about the most, or I care about at least, we got to see. All right, so I really like that, and so it was a good show. It was a good show. Beautiful color, beautiful, just beautiful, just beautiful. So it's a great start to the season, and we will see where things go from here. Hopefully it maintains this level of storytelling and all that good stuff. All right, so that's my review, and hopefully you enjoyed it. Talk to you later.